I have questions about the end of the story of Moses. So, okay, if there is a historical Moses, where is this guy?
Moses was one of those names that echoes through history, no matter who you are or what you believe. According to the Bible, Moses met his end on the far side of a valley, with his burial site shrouded in mystery, hidden away from the world. For centuries, people have wondered where he might be buried, but the location has remained unknown until now. Join us as we discuss why scientists led by Josh Gates are in tears and what they meant when they said, "We found Moses' tomb that was sealed for thousands of years." In a discovery that has stunned both historians and archaeologists, a team of scientists claims to have found a tomb they believe could be the final resting place of Moses, sealed for thousands of years. The revelation has brought some researchers to tears. But the story doesn't end there. New findings suggest this site may contain more than anyone anticipated. Could this mysterious tomb rewrite what we know about the ancient world? The fact that a man like Moses, who holds significance in not just Christianity but other religions, died and his burial place was hidden, is a mystery that has had people confused for centuries. What is at this site? But before we can get to it, we need to talk about why this is so important. He was an important man himself. Moses is a central figure in Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, three of the world's largest religions. He was born in ancient Egypt during a time when the Pharaoh ordered the death of all newborn Hebrew boys to control their population. In a desperate move, his mother placed him in a basket and sent him down the Nile River, hoping to save his life. Moses was found by Pharaoh's daughter. She had no idea who he was or how he got there. She just really wanted a baby, and seeing him, she felt a connection and knew he was going to be his. So she ended up adopting him and raising him in the royal palace. But things took an interesting turn from here. Despite growing up with the privileges of royalty, Moses always remembered his Hebrew roots. When he was 40, he killed an Egyptian who was beating a Hebrew slave, forcing him to flee Egypt to avoid punishment. Moses lived quietly in the land of Midian for 40 years, where he married Zipporah, the daughter of a local priest, and worked as a shepherd. However, his life changed dramatically when he encountered a burning bush on Mount Horeb, Mount Sinai, where God spoke to him and told him to return to Egypt to free the Israelites from slavery. Moses returned to Egypt and, with the help of his brother Aaron, demanded that Pharaoh let the Israelites go. When Pharaoh refused, God sent a series of 10 plagues to punish Egypt, from turning the Nile into blood to sending swarms of locusts and covering the land in darkness. The final plague, the death of every firstborn son, including Pharaoh's, finally convinced the Pharaoh to release the Israelites. Before the final plague struck Egypt, Moses gave the Israelites a key instruction: mark their doorposts with lamb's blood. This act would protect them from the angel of death, which would pass over their homes and spare their firstborn children. This act of faith led to the establishment of Passover, a central tradition in Jewish life. When Pharaoh's own son died in the final plague, he finally gave in and allowed the Israelites to leave Egypt. This moment, around 1250 BC, marked the start of the Exodus. Moses led the Israelites out of Egypt toward the Promised Land. But soon after, Pharaoh regretted his decision and sent his army after them. Trapped between the Red Sea and Pharaoh's forces, the Israelites were desperate, but once again God intervened. Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the waters parted, creating a path for the Israelites to escape. As they crossed to safety, the waters closed in on the Egyptian army, drowning them and securing the Israelites' freedom. With Egypt behind them, Moses led the Israelites through the harsh desert. Their journey was long and difficult. At Mount Sinai, God gave Moses the 10 Commandments, which became the foundation of Jewish law. Despite these divine signs, the Israelites often struggled with faith and disobedience, resulting in 40 years of wandering in the desert. During this time, Moses continued to guide them, settling disputes and teaching them God's laws. Miracles followed, like manna from heaven to feed them and water drawn from a rock. As the 40 years drew to a close, Moses was allowed to see the Promised Land from the top of Mount Nebo. However, because of a previous act of disobedience at the waters of Meribah, Moses was not allowed to enter. All of these backstories should now help you understand why his place of burial is hidden in such a deep mystery. So let's look at how the tomb was discovered. Discovering the tomb, according to the Bible, Moses died on Mount Nebo, and God buried him in a secret place around 1271 BC. The mystery of Moses' burial has intrigued people for centuries because of his importance, as we have already talked about. And if a reader of the first 4 books of the Torah still has any doubts about Moses' paramount importance to Israel's history, the book of Deuteronomy makes it undeniably clear. Now, fast forward to the present. Josh Gates and his team may have discovered Moses' long-lost tomb. One site of particular interest is Nablus Musa, nestled in the Judean desert near the Dead Sea. For centuries, this site has held religious significance, especially in Islamic tradition. Moses, the revered prophet. In Islamic tradition, the story of Moses holds significant religious and moral meaning, with key events and divine interventions showing God's protection and guidance over him from birth to prophethood. This account, as narrated in the Quran, shares themes with the biblical version, but with unique aspects that highlight Moses' role as a chosen prophet. A century after the death of Prophet Joseph, Egypt's rulers ordered the killing of every Israelite male child, sparing only daughters for servitude. Moses was born during this period, and his mother, fearing for his life, followed God's command to keep him hidden, and, when danger grew imminent, placed him in a box on the Nile. The current led the box to Pharaoh's palace, where a servant found and brought the baby to Pharaoh's wife, who persuaded Pharaoh to spare the child and raise him as her own, despite him being an Israelite. A similar story to the Jewish tradition, but there was a little more to it. As the baby was unsettled and refused to nurse, Moses' sister, who had been watching from a distance, suggested a woman who could feed and comfort him. This woman, of course, was his biological mother, fulfilling God's promise to reunite mother and child and easing her sorrow. Raised within Pharaoh's household, Moses grew into adulthood. One day, he saw an Israelite and an Egyptian fighting, and when he intervened to help the Israelite, he accidentally killed the Egyptian. Deeply distressed, Moses prayed for forgiveness and vowed to avoid wrongful actions. However, when the same Israelite called for his help again, Moses hesitated, realizing that the man might be exploiting his help. Soon, a messenger warned Moses of Pharaoh's intentions to execute him, prompting him to flee Egypt toward Madian. Upon reaching Madian, Moses helped 2 sisters water their animals and met their father, who welcomed him warmly and offered one of his daughters in marriage in exchange for 8 years of service. After this period, Moses set out with his family and encountered a miraculous fire on Mount Tur. Approaching it, he heard God's voice marking the beginning of his divine mission. God showed him signs, transforming his staff into a serpent and making his hand shine white as miracles to strengthen his resolve. God then instructed Moses to return to Egypt with his brother Aaron as a partner, to confront Pharaoh and his followers with patience and kindness. Together, Moses and Aaron were to deliver God's message of monotheism and righteousness, guided by divine support and protected from the perils they might face in Pharaoh's court. This story emphasizes themes of faith, courage, and the fulfillment of divine promises central to the Islamic portrayal of Moses as a prophet and leader. But it's his death that's a mystery here. Islamic tradition provides very limited details on the death of Prophet Musa, with most information coming from hadith, sayings of the Prophet Muhammad, rather than the Quran. According to Islamic beliefs, Moses died on a journey in the wilderness before entering the Holy Land, as the Israelites were destined to wander for 40 years due to their disobedience and lack of faith. The Quran doesn't specifically mention the location or manner of Moses' death. However, a well-known saying shares more details. According to this narration, the angel of death approached Moses to take his soul. But Moses, not ready to die, struck the angel. The angel then returned to God, who allowed Moses to choose the timing of his death. Eventually, Moses accepted death and requested that his body be placed close to the Holy Land, though he understood that he would not enter it. Prophet Muhammad later mentioned that Moses was buried near a red sand hill close to the sacred land, though the exact location is not specified. This area is often thought to be in modern-day Jordan, around the region near Mount Nebo. While Islamic tradition respects and honors Moses as a major prophet, his final resting place remains unknown. But that doesn't mean there aren't any theories. Where do Muslims think the tomb is? Muslims believe Nabi Musa to be his final resting place. The site has deep connections to Moses, who is mentioned more times in the Quran than any other prophet. His story in Islam shares many similarities with the biblical account. His birth, his escape from Pharaoh's decree, and his role in leading the Israelites out of Egypt. This passage follows the journey of Moses, a prophet chosen by God, as he leads the Israelites out of oppression and into faith. God reassures Moses and Aaron that he hears and sees all things, empowering them to face Pharaoh with a clear message: let the Israelites go and cease tormenting them. Moses and Aaron bring God's signs to the Israelites, asking them to worship the one true God. However, they meet resistance, and the people initially dismiss Moses as a mere magician. In Egypt, Moses and Pharaoh clash on matters of belief and authority. Pharaoh demands proof of Moses' divine mission, and Moses performs miracles, such as transforming his staff into a serpent. Pharaoh's advisors label him a sorcerer, leading Pharaoh to summon the best magicians to challenge Moses. But when Moses' staff swallows the others' creations, the magicians believe in Moses' God, angering Pharaoh further. Pharaoh warns them of severe punishment, but they remain steadfast in their newfound faith. Pharaoh's obstinacy continues despite repeated signs from God. Moses warns of impending punishment, but Pharaoh remains defiant, proclaiming himself as Egypt's sole ruler. God then strikes Pharaoh's people with various plagues, briefly prompting them to plead for relief, but they revert to disbelief as soon as they recover. Pharaoh's advisors, Quiron and Haman, become particularly hostile, and the persecution of the Israelites intensifies. Instructed by God, Moses eventually leads the Israelites out of Egypt. God miraculously parts the sea for them to pass, but when Pharaoh and his army pursue them, they are engulfed by the waters. The Israelites finally settle in a new land. Later, Moses ascends a mountain for communion with God, who grants him commandments on stone tablets meant to guide his people. Upon his return, Moses discovers that in his absence, the Israelites, influenced by Al-Samiri, have begun worshipping a golden calf. He chastises them for their disobedience, destroying the calf and punishing Al-Samiri. Moses' mission continues with guidance for the Israelites, warning them against disobeying God's commandments and reminding them of his past blessings and promises. Despite challenges, he leads them toward the Holy Land, although only a faithful few are willing to follow. The unfaithful are destined to wander for 40 years as a consequence of their rebellion. Nabi Musa is a mosque that is 700 years old. It's kind of fortified to keep intruders from coming in. The connection between this sacred site and the biblical Moses continues to captivate scholars and believers alike. During the Mamluk Sultanate, Sultan Baybars established the shrine and mosque at Nabi Musa to honor the prophet Moses. This act was more than just a sign of respect. It cemented the site's importance in Islamic tradition. The construction of the shrine initiated a centuries-old pilgrimage tradition, a practice that continues to this day. One of the most significant events tied to the site is the annual Nabi Musa festival, a pilgrimage from Jerusalem to the shrine. The festival is traditionally linked to the celebration of Laylat al-Miraj, commemorating the Prophet Muhammad's night journey and ascension to heaven. This vibrant festival demonstrates the lasting legacy of Moses in Islamic thought, as pilgrims honor his life by visiting this sacred place. Nabi Musa is not just a historical site, as we can see, but it is a physical and spiritual link to the story of Moses. Architecturally, it reflects the medieval Islamic style, featuring a mosque, shrine, and accommodations for pilgrims, all preserved and restored over the centuries. The shrine itself is simple but majestic, offering a quiet space for reflection amid the stark desert landscape, which only adds to its mystical aura. But is Nabi Musa really Moses' final resting place? Other sites, such as Jebel Harun, also claim to hold this honor. Located near Petra in modern-day Jordan, Jebel Harun is believed to be the burial place of Moses' brother Aaron. Some suggest that Moses himself could be buried nearby, making this mountain a site of great religious and historical significance. Jebel Harun, or Aaron's Mountain, rises 4,500 feet above sea level, towering over the Petra region. This site has drawn pilgrims for centuries, attracting Jews, Christians, and Muslims, each with their own traditions tied to the sacred peak. At the summit stands a white-domed mosque built in the 14th century, marking Aaron's believed resting place. The journey to the top is challenging and requires stamina, but for those who reach it, the reward is more than the stunning views of the Petra landscape. It's the profound sense of spiritual connection to a place of deep historical and religious importance. The mosque on Jebel Harun, with its simple yet striking white dome, marks the spot where Aaron, the brother of Moses, is believed to be buried. The modest structure consists of a single room and a small courtyard, but its religious significance far outweighs its size. Jebel Harun is revered in Jewish, Christian, and Muslim traditions as Aaron's resting place. According to the Torah, Aaron died and was buried at a location referred to as Mount Hor or Mosera, though interpretations vary. The Jewish historian Josephus, in the 1st century AD, identified the mountain near Petra as Mount Hor, the site of Aaron's death. This belief was later embraced by Christians who built a Byzantine monastery there, establishing it as a pilgrimage destination. In Islamic tradition, Aaron, known as Harun, is also highly revered. He is acknowledged in the Quran as a prophet who aided his brother Musa Moses in leading the Israelites. The current mosque, built during the Mamluk era in the early 14th century, stands atop the mountain as a sacred place for Muslims. However, long before the mosque, a Christian monastery stood here, offering refuge for travelers and pilgrims. Today, the ruins of that monastery can still be seen near the peak, a testament to the mountain's long history as a holy site. The interior of the mosque is simple, with a small room beneath the dome serving as a shrine to Aaron. An inscription above the door notes the mosque's last renovation in 1320 AD, maintaining the modest charm that invites visitors to reflect on the site's spiritual importance. Another significant location often associated with Moses is Mount Nebo, widely regarded as his final resting place. Mount Nebo, located in Jordan and rising about 2,300 feet above sea level, is rich with biblical history. According to the Bible, it was from this mountain that Moses was granted a view of the Promised Land, though he would not enter it. Instead, it is said that Moses died on Mount Nebo, with his burial site left a mystery. From the summit of Mount Nebo, one can take in breathtaking views of the Jordan River Valley, with the West Bank, and on clear days, even the city of Jerusalem visible in the distance. This panorama offers a sense of what Moses might have seen during his final moments. Over the centuries, Mount Nebo has remained a destination for pilgrims, adding to its deep religious and historical significance. Nearby lies the ancient town of Nebo, further enriching the site's sacred legacy. Mount Nebo's significance is made clearer in the book of Deuteronomy, as mentioned before, where it is described that Moses ascended the mountain, viewed the promised land of Canaan, and then passed away, leaving behind a legacy that would echo through millennia. To commemorate this sacred moment, a Christian church was built at the summit during the Byzantine era. Discovered during explorations in the 1930s, the site revealed a rich history beneath its soil. The church, originally constructed in the 4th century in the typical basilica pattern, was expanded in the 6th century. 6 tombs carved into the rock beneath the church's mosaic floor only made the mystery that much worse. Mount Nebo's enduring importance was highlighted in 2000 when Pope John Paul II visited the summit during his pilgrimage to the Holy Land. He planted an olive tree next to the Byzantine chapel, symbolizing peace and reflecting the mountain's spiritual history. 9 years later, Pope Benedict XVI followed suit, delivering a speech and admiring the same landscape that Moses might have seen. A modern addition to the site is a striking serpentine cross sculpture created by Italian artist Gian Paolo Fantoni. This artwork symbolizes both the bronze serpent invoked by Moses in the wilderness and the cross of Jesus, blending two powerful symbols of faith and redemption. Mount Nebo is also mentioned in the second book of Maccabees, where it is written that the prophet Jeremiah hid the tabernacle and the Ark of the Covenant in a cave on the mountain. This has led to centuries of speculation about hidden treasures still concealed there. And the modern world is catching on. The idea gained further attention when amateur archaeologist Ron Wyatt claimed to have found evidence supporting this theory. Despite Mount Nebo being the most widely accepted location for Moses' burial, the exact site of his grave remains unknown. This mystery reeled in explorer Josh Gates, who went on an ambitious journey to uncover possible alternate burial sites. One area that caught his attention was the Sea of Galilee, a region steeped in biblical history. In 2018, Gates and his team set out on an expedition, meticulously planning to search for underwater sites or hidden structures around the Sea of Galilee, hoping to find clues to the long-lost tomb of Moses. With the latest technology at their disposal, Josh Gates and his team were prepared to explore the depths of the Sea of Galilee and its surrounding terrain in their quest to uncover the long-lost tomb of Moses. You could look down into the Sea of Galilee and see this bump. Is there anything else like this that rises up out of the lake here? Their first tool was satellite imagery, which allowed them to analyze the terrain and pinpoint areas that matched descriptions from ancient texts. This technique gave them a detailed understanding of the region before they even began the physical search. With the help of advanced mapping software, they created precise maps to guide their expedition. As they ventured into the field, Josh used ground-penetrating radar, or GPR, a non-invasive tool that sends radar pulses into the ground and returns signals when it detects subsurface objects. This allowed them to see underneath the earth without disturbing the terrain. Drones equipped with high-resolution cameras provided aerial views of the landscape, capturing images of hard-to-reach places like cliffs and steep areas, giving the team new insights from above. They also used 3D scanning technology to create detailed models of their discoveries, which enabled further analysis and helped them share their findings with the broader public. But it was their discovery beneath the Sea of Galilee that really changed everything. The unexpected surprise. In October 2018, after weeks of scanning and surveying, Josh and his team uncovered an ancient circular stone monument, a cairn submerged in the lake. This massive structure, made of basalt rocks, measured 230 feet in diameter and rose 32 feet from the lake bed. Cairns are often linked to burial practices in various ancient cultures, and this one, hidden underwater, hinted at forgotten rituals. Its monumental size and location made it a compelling piece of evidence in the search for Moses' final resting place, but it gets even more interesting. As Josh Gates and his team carefully excavated the submerged site, the possibility that this ancient structure could be linked to Moses' final resting place became more and more plausible. The cairn's massive, deliberate construction beneath the Sea of Galilee, combined with its association with ancient burial practices, suggested it wasn't just a random formation. Instead, it might be marking the tomb of a significant figure, potentially even Moses himself. The challenges of excavation were immense, and they included poor visibility, strong currents, and the sheer depth of the lake. But Josh and his team pressed on with determination. Each stone uncovered brought them closer to unraveling the mystery. Their painstaking efforts revealed more of the structure, carefully documenting every detail. What made this find truly groundbreaking wasn't just its scale, but the possibility that it could rewrite centuries of history. Artifacts found at the site, including pottery shards and ancient tools, were carbon dated to around 3,200 years ago, aligning with the era when Moses is believed to have lived. This timeline added considerable weight to the theory that the cairn could indeed be connected to Moses' tomb. But the most startling discovery came when the team found a hidden chamber beneath the mound of stones. Inside the chamber lay an ancient tomb. As they uncovered it, Josh Gates and his team couldn't believe what they had found. An undisturbed burial site, sealed for thousands of years. The tomb was constructed with great precision, using large stone blocks that had weathered the passage of time. Inside was a simple coffin, far less ornate than expected, suggesting the focus was on preservation rather than display. When they opened the tomb, the team was stunned. The remains inside were wrapped in linen, still remarkably well preserved because of the unique conditions within the chamber. There were no lavish treasures, only the body, encased in silence. The simplicity of the burial only heightened the sense of mystery, as it seemed to point towards someone of great significance, possibly Moses himself. Josh Gates exclaimed that they had found Moses' tomb, astonished by the revelation. The discovery, hidden beneath the waters of the Sea of Galilee, seemed to contradict centuries of tradition. Across all religions, the story hasn't been anywhere near this area. Could this truly be the long-lost resting place of one of history's most revered figures? Possibly. What's even crazier here is that hiding Moses' place of burial was not a mistake, and was rather an intentional move. Why Moses' tomb was hidden? Moses' tomb remaining hidden marks a significant break from the Torah's tradition of revering the burial sites of Israel's leaders, which began with Abraham purchasing the cave of Machpelah for Sarah, establishing a sacred family burial ground. This tradition was further honored when Joseph risked his status in Pharaoh's court to bury his father Jacob in the same location, and Moses later upheld it by ensuring Joseph's bones were carried out of Egypt during the Exodus. In light of these precedents, it raises the compelling question, why did God conceal Moses' burial place? The likely answer lies in the fear that Moses, because of his wide influence and the miracles he performed, might have been deified by future generations. But there are even more explanations for this. Raubag offers a compelling, though flawed, explanation. Raubag, or Rabbi Levi ben Gershon, was a medieval Jewish philosopher and scholar known for his work, Milhamat Hashem, The Wars of the Lord, which explored topics like theology, metaphysics, and astronomy. His biblical commentaries blended rationalist philosophy with Jewish teachings, offering logical interpretations of Scripture, such as his explanation for the hidden burial place of Moses. He explained that if Moses' grave were known, future generations might deify him, given the miraculous acts associated with his leadership. Raubag cites the episode of the copper serpent as evidence of this tendency. Initially, the copper serpent saved Israel from deadly snake bites, but over time it became an object of idolatry, as indicated in 2 Kings chapter 18, verse 4. If an object crafted by Moses could lead to idol worship, how much more dangerous would Moses' own burial site be? Raubag's argument gains strength when we examine Moses' own warnings against idolatry in Deuteronomy, chapter 4, verses 15 to 24. Here, Moses emphasizes that the Israelites saw no physical image of God at Sinai and strictly forbids the worship of any form, whether human or animal. Moses includes a stark warning that God is a consuming fire, a jealous God, making it clear that nothing, not even a human figure like himself, should be worshipped. The juxtaposition of Moses' teachings on idolatry with his announcement of his imminent death suggests that Moses was concerned about being deified. After all, the Israelites had witnessed his extraordinary abilities, leading them out of Egypt, performing miracles and enduring supernatural feats, such as fasting for 40 days and nights. Moreover, Moses remained vigorous and youthful at his death, which could further fuel a belief in his immortality. In this context, Moses' reminder of his mortality is a key element of his final message. Though he performed miracles, his death was a testament to his humanity. By keeping his tomb totally hidden, God ensured that Moses' legacy would not be tarnished by idolatry. The act of concealing his burial place served as a divine safeguard, reinforcing that Moses, despite his greatness, was not to be worshipped as a god. This brings to light the larger biblical message. Human leaders, no matter how powerful, remain mortal, and worship is reserved for God alone. Finally, the Torah does not depict Moses as a failed leader. In fact, it affirms him as Israel's greatest prophet, as seen in the special mourning period given for him. Moses led the people with love and successfully prepared them for the transition to Joshua. However, both Moses and God understood the risk that the people might begin to see Moses as a god. To prevent this, God buried Moses in a place that was unsuitable for becoming a shrine. His resting place isn't exactly hidden, it's just so far away, out of everyone's sight, that no one would ever find it. But is all the secrecy a step too far? What do you think? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and if you liked this video,